Hour number 2 of the Larry Elder Show now underway, 6 minutes past the top of the hour. Good Tuesday to you. The first morning, or the first, that's habit, by the way, for my morning show. The first day, now / afternoon / evening of the 9th month of the year of our Lord 2020. My name is Bob France, sitting in for the Sage. Bad news, as I gave you at the top of the show, and I'll repeat it for you now. Larry is dealing with a death in the family, a terrible tragedy. His brother Kirk, as you know, passed away. It will be 1 year ago in 13 days. And now Kirk's son, 38-year-old Eric, was found deceased yesterday. And so I bring you this, I tell you this only because Larry told me to let you know what was going on. And also to ask for prayers and support for the entire Elder family. Obviously, a very terrible situation. I'm always delighted to sit in for Larry and to talk with his fantastic audience, but I wish it was under better circumstances today. So prayers and thoughts and best wishes to our friend Larry. As it is 7 minutes after the top of the hour, I want to bring in our guest now. I told you about this at the top of the show. Patrick Wood is the executive director of CFFS, which stands for Citizens for Free Speech, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the defense of the First Amendment, quite obviously. And CFFS, full disclosure, I work with Patrick in this endeavor, and they have been instrumental in defending First Amendment rights, particularly in the face of all of the lockdown orders and the various things that have been done to deal with the pandemic in states all across this country, from mandated mask wearing to a ban on church going to a ban on church singing while you're there, believe it or not, and so many other things that have been taken from us. An opportunity to gather. I mean, you look at all 5 tenets of the First Amendment, they have all been under assault in some way or another by governors or governments since the worldwide pandemic known as COVID-19. And Patrick Wood joins us now to talk about what's going on, particularly in the state of California. Patrick, good to have you on the program here on the Larry Elder Show. How are you? And I cannot hear Patrick Wood right now. Can we pot that up, please? Do we have Patrick? Or are we having connection issues? I'm guessing he should be on the phones. He was our 707 guest, so we'll try to make that happen. It looks like we have, we were having a tech glitch. Not sure exactly what it is. We are having a technical glitch, and we will fix that ASAP. Okay, but here's the deal, and this is the story that we want to talk about here that brought this particular subject to a head again now. The story is out of California, and I told you this at the top of the first hour of the broadcast. A church in California, Los Angeles County to be precise, is suffering the retaliation of Los Angeles County's health department and Governor Gavin Newsom for daring to, are you ready for this, have church services. That's what this is. Daring to have church services. Grace Community Church and its pastor, John MacArthur, chose to defy the unconstitutional order against church services, which, this order was, of course, made in fighting the pandemic. Los Angeles County has seen fit now. First of all, they threatened to cut off the power and the utility services to these churches. And in particular, they have decided, because this particular church went and had services, to revoke their lease. They revoked the lease that they have held for 45 years for their parking lot, so that the congregants can come to the services. This is straight up retribution, straight up retaliation, and it is unbecoming government, and more importantly, it's unconstitutional. Jenna Ellis is an attorney representing Pastor MacArthur and the church. Los Angeles County is retaliating, she says, against Grace Community for simply exercising their constitutionally protected rights to hold church. And they are challenging the unlawful, unreasonable health order. In America, Jenna Ellis says, we have a judicial system to ensure that the executive branch does not abuse its power. And Grace Community Church has every right to be heard without fear of reprisal. But reprisal is exactly what is happening. The Democrats' message to America is clear, she said, to Americans rather. If you don't bow down to every whim of tyranny, perhaps instead of bowing down to God, if you don't bow down to every whim of tyranny, the government will come after you. The church has peacefully held this lease for 45 years, and the only reason the county is attempting eviction is because Pastor MacArthur stood up to their unconstitutional power grab. This is harassment, abusive, and unconscionable. And I do understand we have fixed our glitch, and let's see if we can bring Patrick Wood onto the program now from Citizens for Free Speech. Patrick, can you hear me?
I can, and I made it here.
Okay, good to have you. Thank you so much. Sorry about the confusion there. Patrick Wood, you are the executive director of Citizens for Free Speech. I was telling just one of the stories of Californians who, by the way, this is a very, very dire time for them, dealing with a heat wave, dealing with rolling blackouts and power outages, and dealing with wildfires that are destroying property and forcing people to evacuate. You know, if people want to go to church and ask for a little bit of, to rely on God's grace and ask for a little bit of relief and to worship, this is something that should be, pretty easy for them to do. And instead, the government is taking their right to exercise their religion away from them. And I know that's one of the things that CFFS strongly opposes. Go ahead.
Well, this is the first part of the First Amendment, which says Congress shall pass no law. That's another issue right now, but shall pass no law that limits the free exercise of religion. And in the silence of Congress right now, these tyrants in California are just having a heyday doing exactly that, limiting the right of churches to hold worship services. And this really underscores the hatred and the bitterness that many of these politicians have for Christian churches. Now that they have the power to do something about it, to shut them down, they're taking that opportunity to persecute these churches basically for no reason at all. They just declared that they are not essential. And of course, protest, BLM, and Antifa, those things seem to be essential, and that's okay. But no, not churches. They're not essential, and therefore they cannot be allowed to even, raise a whisper.
This is how bad it's gotten, Patrick Wood. Again, when we talk about infringing upon a person's right to practice their religion, to exercise their religion freely. In Santa Clara County, the story I just told was from Los Angeles County, but in Santa Clara County, a church called the North Valley Baptist Church was fined $10,000 because their parishioners were in the pews, are you ready for this? Singing. Literally, they were fined $10,000 for singing, and this was verified by, are you ready for this? Spies. The government, the health department in Santa Clara County, California, sent spies into the church to see if the people sang. And if they sang, they were going to be fined. And they did sing, and they were fined. And Patrick, I don't understand how any court of law could possibly see this as anything other than unconstitutional.
Well, I think this is what the lawyers for these churches are figuring at this point, that they don't have a leg to stand on, and they're going to bust them really good. However, we know the court system is very fickle, and especially in California, where they'll have to approach us from a state court level. Many of the state courts, they all come from the state, of course, many of the state courts are completely corrupt. So it's kind of a crapshoot in a way to say, well, the courts definitely will. In California, you never know.
That is very true. That is very true. And Patrick, we could sit here and list example after example after example, and there are many others where essentially, Governor Gavin Newsom has said, look, you are not going to worship, not while I am governor and not while this COVID-19 is still considered to be a national emergency or a California state of emergency. But Pat, as you said just a few seconds ago, the things that they do allow, they do allow people to go into the streets and gather shoulder to shoulder and do more than sing. They're allowed to scream and chant. Things like Death to America in Oakland. Things like Pigs in a Blanket, Fry 'em like bacon, in San Francisco and in Los Angeles and so on and so forth. So what's really frustrating, about this is they are allowing freedom of assembly, by way of the protests and freedom to sing their protests out loud, but they are denying assembly in churches and places of worship, which is a very, very significant issue. Pat, I got a hard break here, but please hang with me. We did not get enough of what you had to say about the churches, and I want to talk about mask mandates as well, which I know CFFS is battling. Patrick Wood, stay with us right after this.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
The biggest story of the week in terms of national security. It looked like a nuclear detonation in Beirut, in the port, in the docks there. I always say, first things first with anything coming out of that region, especially the benighted region of Lebanon, most initial reports are fallacious. You got to wait and see. Fireworks this, fireworks that. How do you deal with breaking massive stories like that, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, exactly the way a professional analyst does with that is you take the facts when you have, as you get them in, and you try to put context around them and say, does this kind of pass the common sense test? So hundreds of deaths, thousands and thousands of casualties, about $15 billion in damage. If you think of
and tens of thousands homeless.
That's right. If you think of the Murrah office building
in Oklahoma, which
was actually a bomb made out of ammonium nitrate, which is fertilizer, right?
Yeah.
But it's highly combustible. So if you put it, you can make a bomb out of it. 1,000 times more powerful than that. So, so totally consistent with that kind of explosion. And apparently, so this was a shipload of ammonium nitrate.
An old shipment.
The ship had broken down. It was owned by a Russian company. Refused to fix the ship. The port seized it. They stuck it in a warehouse
for years.
Yeah, went back and forth with the government and the courts. Nothing ever happened to it. So there were reports that fireworks were stored in the same warehouse. This is an incredibly unsafe, combustible conditions. If you actually watch the explosion, it's completely consistent like that because you see some secondary explosions and then you see the big, balloon thing.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
Where the doctors said wearing a mask outside healthcare facilities offers little, if any, protection from infection. New England Journal of Medicine. So there are people say, you're not telling the truth. The whole truth, because they wrote a letter to the New England Journal of Medicine afterwards. Did you see that? I saw it. I was totally aware of it. And it does nothing to undo what they said. They got spooked. The left got to them. You can't let people think that masks are useless. You scientists and the New England Journal of Medicine. So they write, we understand that some people are citing our perspective article published on April 1st at newenglandjournalofmedicine.org as support for discrediting widespread masking. In truth, the intent of our article was to push for more masking, not less. It's not true at all. It's completely not true. They just don't want to be attacked by the left. So you lie. It is apparent that many people with SARS-CoV-2 infection are asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic, yet highly contagious, and that these people account for a substantial fraction of all transmissions. Universal masking helps to prevent such people from spreading virus-laden secretions, whether they recognize that they are infected or not. We did state in the article that, quote, wearing a mask outside healthcare facilities offers little, if any, protection from infection. So I will continue reading. So if you were to take these doctors at their word, they have undone the point of the article.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
20 minutes after the top of the hour, Bob France sitting in for the great sage of South Central, Larry Elder, joined by Patrick Wood. He is the executive director of Citizens for Free Speech. Patrick, so we're talking about all of these First Amendment rights that we are trying to defend and protect at CFFS. And we're talking about all of those that have been taken away because of the pandemic and because of governmental overreach in response to them. The CDC, and we're always told to listen to the science, has made two startling revelations in the past few days. Number one, 94% of all of the deaths with COVID, 94% of them were people who had at least one and usually two comorbidities that led to their death. Only 6% of those who have died from COVID-19 died only from COVID-19. That's number one. And number two, we also found out that 90% of the positive tests that have been diagnosed since this thing began, 90% of them were tests that were positive of people who were not contagious at the time of the test. In other words, they tested positive because of the hypersensitivity of the test that could detect dead virus particles in the nose and in the nasal passage, or super low amounts that are not enough to even be contagious to spread it. So we find out now that it's not nearly as contagious by the time someone tests positive as they said it was, and people are not dying just from getting COVID-19 unless they are extraordinarily rare, because as I just gave you the numbers. So Patrick, is it time to end this national state of emergency, and is it time to end these mask mandates that we see nationwide?
It is time to end them, but I'm afraid, Bob, that unless people stand up and say, we will not comply, it's not going to end. And this is a political phenomenon, a political tsunami at this point that is beyond the science. As you just mentioned now, the science is on our side, if you will. This whole thing has been an absolute overstatement of what the virus really is. And now that we know that it's not much, in other words, their science is crumbling, will they give up their initiatives and stuff to stop doing all the things? I say no, because we went through this with the whole climate change issue, with global warming. When their science was declared to be useless and flawed and cracked, that did not stop them from pushing forward with their agenda. And neither will this stop them from pushing forward with their agenda today. Americans, one at a time and in mass protest, need to stand up and say, we will not comply, not now, not ever, not even in the next life. We're not going to comply with your technocratic, crazy schemes to subjugate America and destroy the America that we know and love. And I have to hasten to add, this is all as dangerous as anything that Antifa or BLM can throw at us. It's the same kind of society-destroying techniques that are being used against us. We must stop it.
So, Patrick, tell me once again, and we've talked about this in the past, but tell me once again about CFFS and its attempt to erase the mask mandate, and to specifically, if the mandates are in place, to get people to say, look, I will not comply. I know this is a core issue for you and the rest of the folks, again, myself included, at Citizens for Free Speech. Tell us about that.
Well, I have the face mask issue is low-hanging fruit for us as far as a protest is concerned. It's not like it's putting bullets into people's skulls or anything, but they have required us, a visible symbol, to wear these face masks. And when we don't wear these face masks and instead we wear a symbol that says we will not comply, this is actually a way to tangibly, immediately protest right where you are and in your community, where you go, the stores, the people you know, etc. When you're wearing a symbol of I will not wear a face mask, then you are making a statement to not only the people in the community, but also everybody up the food chain, if you will. And that's why we created these so-called no mask cards that point out the health risk, number one, for anybody that's healthy that wears these face masks, and secondly, how it's a violation of the First Amendment. I mean, how much college education you need to understand if you are muzzled with a face mask, like a dog almost, how can you speak? You can't speak. You don't have any free speech when you're wearing a mask. How can you assemble if you have to stay 6 feet apart and you're getting fined $20,000 if you dare go to church and sing? It's beyond the pale. If we don't stop this, these people are not going to stop their assault on America. And the end is going to be very poor if we don't stand up right now and do something about it.
Well, that's the key is what can we do about it? There are lawsuits that are being filed all over the country. And in fact, in my home state of Ohio, Patrick Wood, there was one that was just filed today. And I'm going to be talking to the attorney who's representing the plaintiffs in that case tomorrow against the state of Ohio, against Mike DeWine, demanding an end to, again, the state of emergency. Given everything that you just talked about and everything we talked about that CDC has represented, and yes, the science, there is no... it would be one thing, I guess, Patrick, or let me ask you rather than say it, would it be a different thing if the science was completely settled on the other side, that COVID is extraordinarily contagious, and those who get it are going to pass it, that R naught number that they look at are going to pass it to 4 or 5 other people, and each of them are going to pass it to 4 or 5 other people, and it's extraordinarily deadly. It would be one thing to limit First Amendment protections and constitutional rights if the science was settled in that regard. But because it's not, Patrick, that's a very different animal altogether, isn't it?
Yes, and it's not settled. When they say the science is settled, and then we respond to say, well, no, the science is unsettled or not settled, that gives credibility to their position that their science is anything, greater than pseudoscience. Pseudoscience is just garbage science. It is not real. It's not even worthy of discussion when you make statements and create propositions that are just absolutely false and with no basis. But they love it when we say, when we argue back that, well, your science isn't settled, we want to discuss it. No, there's really nothing to discuss. Most Americans already get this. There isn't anything to discuss. This is just another political carpetbagging maneuver. And I think a lot of Americans really understand that now. These people are just pulling our chain. They don't have a leg to stand on by and large, but they're not going to stop pulling our chain until we run them personally off the scene. It's not just arguing over the science. It's taking these people that are promoting the pseudoscience and getting them out of the public policy arena.
The First Amendment defends and protects our right to speak freely, our right to express ourselves freely, our right to participate in and practice our religion freely, and our right to assemble peaceably and to get redress for our grievances. And many of those things are being taken away from us right now in the name of the pandemic. And I know that's why you're fighting. That's what CFFS is all about, or at least one of the huge things that it's about. In 30 seconds, Patrick, tell people about your card and where they can get it.
Well, absolutely. All they need to do is just go to citizensforfreespeech.org. Doesn't cost anything to join our organization. We want you to join and stand with us. We'll be putting out emails and press releases and so on frequently. But people can also avail themselves of our free, not free, it's going to cost a little bit of donation, but they can take advantage of our no mask.
I've got a hard break here, Patrick Wood. I'll finish what you are saying right now on the other side of this break. Patrick Wood, thank you so much for the time. We'll be back.
Thank you.
Yeah. The next one. Thanks for being with us. Bob France sitting in for Larry in the ReliefFactor.com studios here in Cleveland, Ohio. If you follow Larry on social media, you will see that he loves a good dinner that consists of a sizzling steak and a glass of wine. And, well, that's what Larry calls an American meal. Recently, Larry met some incredible patriots that are bringing the best meal from American farmers to dinner plates all over the country. And, of course, Larry would like to introduce his new friends, the Good Ranchers at GoodRanchers.com. Good Ranchers partners with American farmers all across our great country to get the best quality meat and ship it free right to your home. No more inconsistent meat from the grocery stores. 100% American-born, raised, and harvested beef and chicken delivered consistently to your home. T-bones, ribeyes, fillets, and more. Shipping is always free. Choose your scheduled meat delivery today and use the promo code Larry to save $30 off your purchase. That's GoodRanchers.com. Promo code Larry. Save $30 at GoodRanchers.com with the promo code Larry. All right, phone lines are wide open. We're going to get to those. And I do want to finish what Patrick Wood was talking about. As I said at the beginning of that conversation, full disclosure, I work with CFFS as well to try to advance the cause of the defense of the First Amendment, especially in response to these unconstitutional mandates that we are all dealing with because of COVID. And he was talking about the blue card. It's become very, very popular. Tens of thousands of them have already been distributed from the Arizona home base across this country, literally to every state. They're blue cards laminated with a blue lanyard so that you can wear them around your neck, and you wear these into businesses instead of wearing the face muzzle. And what it basically says, it doesn't care. Hold on, let me grab mine right now. I literally have it right now. If you're watching on LarryElder.com, you will see this. I'll hold it up to the camera right here. This is the blue card that I'm talking about. It's laminated. The front of it explains essentially your rights. Wearing a face mask poses a serious health risk to me. Under the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA, I am not required to disclose my medical condition to you, but I am exempt from any local or state regulation mandating face mask usage in public. And then it goes on to quote the AMA in the Americans with Disabilities Act, that if somebody wishes to deny you your rights here, that they can indeed be liable in a court of law. Now, this does not carry the weight of law. Just carrying this in and saying, you have to let me in, I can do what I want. Somebody can still be very, very insistent that you leave unless you put on a face mask. And that's when you have to choose whether or not you want to push this and have a civil discussion as to why they're wrong, or if you want to say, fine, I'll take my business elsewhere. But it does ask at the bottom, please provide the necessary consideration to aid the bearer in the unimpeded exercise of their legal and constitutional rights. The backside of this blue card that we are giving to members of CFFS, it contains, and again, I'm holding it up for the crowd, the audience who is watching online at LarryElder.com, it simply contains the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for redress of their grievances. This card doesn't carry the weight of law, but it's a strong symbol that says, I do not comply, and I will not comply with these unconstitutional mandates. This mask poses a health danger, and my health condition is not one that I wish to put in danger. So please allow me to go mask-free. And again, you can take it from there. How do you get one of these? citizensforfreespeech.org. citizensforfreespeech.org. Just become a member and make a $5 donation, which simply covers the cost of manufacturing the card and shipping it to you. There's no profit here. It's simply to make sure that you have these symbols of your refusal to comply, and take them with you. I wear mine every time I go to a public place, and I have used it on many occasions. The most recent time was at a Mexican restaurant this past Saturday night with my wife. And my wife doesn't like confrontation, so she wears the mask. That's her right. That's the beautiful thing about this free country. You can wear it or you don't have to. I did not have mine on, and immediately they stopped me at the door and said, do you have a mask? Where's your mask? And I said, no, I don't wear one. And they said, why not? And I said, well, I have a condition that prohibits me from wearing one. And it is not up to them to ask me what that condition is. If they ever do, I will tell them that condition is sanity or common sense. But they don't ask me that. What they did ask me is if I had a paper or a card showing so, and I held up my blue card, and that is my answer. And they said, okay. And I went in and I sat down mask-free, and I had a nice meal. So my point to that, again, I know I don't want to belabor it, but seriously, it's something that you should really consider to kind of take back some of your freedoms that are guaranteed us by the Constitution. All right, 21 minutes before the top of the hour. We're going to come back and go heavy on phone calls the rest of the way. So dial now, 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Bob Francini in for the brilliant Larry Elder here on the Salem Radio Network.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
Well, Chinese authorities claimed the first explosion had been triggered when the summer heat caused a highly flammable compound called nitrocellulose to spontaneously ignite. Nearby stores of ammonium nitrate then caught fire and exploded in the major port city. It's hard to believe, that just the heat of Beirut caused this. Oh my God. It's a horrible thing. Then as now witnesses filmed apocalyptic, almost surreal footage showing the scale of the inferno. 150 people, at least, are dead. Thousands have been injured. Massive damage. And Lebanon was already in a terrible state. It's sort of like in a failed state. I was mentioning to the Living Martyr earlier during a break, Hezbollah has ruined Lebanon. Lebanon was the garden of the Middle East, of the Arab Middle East. It's where the rich went to enjoy themselves. I was in Beirut long time ago, and it was a thriving city. And then the civil war was the beginning of the end. The radical Muslims against the rest of society.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Now let me get to the bad news. Politico. COVID talks going nowhere as deadline nears. New York Times. Amid dire jobless numbers, small business relief program nears end. Washington Post. White House. Democrats fail to reach agreement on virus relief bill. Next steps are uncertain. Financial Times. Donald Trump threatens executive action to break stimulus impact. You see what's going on? Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are demanding $3.5 trillion. The Republicans want to extend unemployment insurance, and they want to give small businesses money. It's about $1 trillion package. They're $2.5 trillion apart. Democrats are holding the unemployed hostage to the Green New Deal. It's that simple. They are holding the unemployed and small businesses hostages to broke states with massive deficits and unsustainable public employee pension program. And Mark Meadows and Steve Mnuchin don't give in. The president can use executive action, and he should. The great one Mark Levin tweeted out last night, and on this I believe Republicans are united. $1 trillion for relief of people who still can't find a job. The unemployment numbers are coming down. We'll get a number at 8:30 today, which I hope will continue to get us closer to 10% unemployment. And the third quarter is going to be magnificent as America reopens. But you can't be held up this way. And I cannot believe Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are doing it, but they are doing it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
The biggest story of the week in terms of national security. It looked like a nuclear detonation in Beirut, in the port, in the docks there. I always say, first things first, with anything coming out of that region, especially the benighted region of Lebanon, most initial reports are
Welcome indeed. 17 minutes before the top of the hour. Bob France sitting in for Larry here in the great state of Ohio, in the beautiful city on the North Coast in Cleveland, Ohio. Well, it was once beautiful. Now it's a Democrat-run hellhole like so many others, to be quite frank, but we still call it beautiful, I guess, because it's home. The ReliefFactor.com studios of AM 1420, The Answer, and I do want to go to your phone calls. I also have to, in fact, let me just hit this real fast, because it has to do with what I just said, Cleveland. There's a suburb of Cleveland on the east side. It's out there in the snow belt, basically. Feel bad for those people and all the snow that they get. It's out in Chardon, Ohio. That's it, Chardon, Ohio. Chardon is probably better known to you around the country for what happened back in 2012. February of 2012, there was a school shooting in Chardon, Ohio. A deranged, evil spawn of Satan by the name of T.J. Lane, a 17-year-old former student at Chardon, who was going to an alternative school because of his behavioral issues, but used the bus in common with several victims and had to stop over at Chardon High School, took out a .22 caliber handgun and shot many people. He killed 3, and he wounded 3 others. It was a horrible event. That's probably the only thing you know about Chardon, but I can tell you that at that time, police raced to Chardon High School. Raced to Chardon High School to try to save lives. Of course, that is exactly what they do. Well, fast forward 8 years later, there's still a very, very strong connection between the people of Chardon and the students at Chardon, even though these are all new students from 8 years ago. But there's a strong connection between the city and the students and the parents and the citizens and the police department, as you can imagine, right? Which is why everybody thought it would be a beautiful thing that on the first night of high school football that they were allowed to play this past Friday, that the players ran onto the field carrying an American flag, but not just any American flag, an American flag with the blue line through it. You know, the blue line, the thin blue line American flag that shows support for police. It's about as non-confrontational and non-controversial as you can get, right? But I guess it wasn't. They carried that thin blue line flag out onto the field before the game, and the superintendent of schools said, "That's not happening anymore. The display will not be a part of future pregame activities, and the athletic director will review items for any form of discrimination or particular political views." Apparently showing support for the police through a Blue Lives Matter flag, or not even a Blue Lives Matter. Let me back that off. It's just a thin blue line flag. Apparently that is a form of discrimination or political views. In the letter written yesterday, Superintendent Michael Hanlon said, based on discussion that ensued over the weekend, it does not appear that this action was motivated by racism, rather a show for support or of support for one of our coaches who serves as a police officer, as well as for the first responders in our community who had developed a special relationship with our school and our students in the wake of the school tragedy of February 27, 2012. Nevertheless, it is understandable how this could be interpreted as a racially motivated action and therefore not acceptable in a school community. Let me say that again. Showing support for police with a thin blue line flag is now a racially motivated action in the minds of the mental midgets that are in charge of American public schools today, and that includes Superintendent Hanlon. You heard me, because the mental capacity that it takes or should take to understand that supporting police is not a discriminatory act to any community, much less a racial community. It is not that high. You shouldn't have to be that smart. You're probably degreed. You probably have an advanced graduate degree, master's degree, or maybe even a doctorate. But you're telling me that you're going to tell these kids that carrying that thin blue line American flag might be racist? That's what you're telling me? Then I'd like to tell you where you can put your degrees, because you don't have one in common sense. You don't have one in common decency. if you are literally saying this could be racially motivated. As a school district, we absolutely recognize the significant impact of this event and the discussion that occurred in our community in the following days. It will be important for us to use this as a learning opportunity and to grow stronger as a school district. No, you just slapped that coach / teacher / police officer in the face. You just slapped every officer in Chardon, every officer in Ohio, every officer in the United States of America in the face by saying that a thin blue line flag could be considered racially motivated. You just fed the narrative and the lie that police in America are racist or racially motivated in some way against a race. And we don't have to say it out loud, do we? You just insinuated that the thin blue line flag means police are racists against blacks. That is all you just did, is you fed the beast. And you fed into the stereotype, which is completely and wholly wrong. As every single statistic ever put forth by the Department of Justice and the Bureau of Justice Statistics will dictate and will detail for you. Nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing. And this is what you've done, is you have fed that lie. I'm sorry, I know I said I was going to calls, but I had to tell that story since I was talking about my hometown here. Let me get in one quickly before the break, and that's Kent in Orange County, California. Kent, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Go right ahead.
Hello, Bob. Doing a great job for Larry to
Thank you.
Out about his nephew.
Yes, indeed.
I was listening to you. As you know, conservatives have been defending Trump's comments that he didn't make, of course, about good people on both sides, or defending the saying that he slammed a crippled reporter, etc. The thing that really amazes me, and I've never heard anybody really make a point of it. This is a man, Donald Trump, who's not only a billionaire, was a superstar, of course, in the entertainment industry. Brilliant guy.
Hold that thought for me, Ken. I want you to make that thought, but I got a hard break here. I'll come to you first on the flip side on the Larry Elder Show.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Do you know what this will do to Second Amendment proponents all over the country? Here was her announcement. This is the New York Attorney General yesterday.
Altogether, there are 18 causes of action. And these actions violated multiple laws, including the laws governing the NRA's charitable status, false reporting on annual filings with my office and the IRS, improper expense documentation, improper wage reporting, improper income tax withholding, failure to make required excise tax reporting and payments in excess of reasonable compensation to disqualified persons, and waste of NRA assets, amongst other offenses. For these years of fraud and misconduct, we are seeking an order to dissolve the NRA in its entirety.
The Wall Street Journal editorial board opines this: you have to smile at Letitia James's audacity. The suit claims to speak for millions of donors, but how does dissolving the nonprofit deliver relief or justice to gun rights donors or their cause? Of course, it's all politically driven. Everybody knows that. Letitia James knows it. She once called the NRA a terrorist organization. The death penalty remedy, the Wall Street Journal notes, is one hint that there might be some politics going on here.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
These Twitter accounts have lost thousands of followers. Brandon Stracker, the man who founded Walkaway, 3,000 Twitter followers gone. Deanna Lorraine, who ran against Nancy Pelosi, 8,000 followers disappeared. Parody account, Stonewall Jackson, 1776 Stonewall, 4,000 followers lost. Omar Navarro, 5,000 followers just vanished. And then congressional candidate Lauren Boebert, 1,500. Now, what's the linking aspect? Have a wild guess. What links all of these people? Not one.
Good advice all the way around. 6 minutes before the top of the hour. Thanks for being with us here on the Larry Elder Show. Bob France sitting in for the Sage. Larry is dealing with a family tragedy right now. The loss of his nephew, his brother Kirk, passed away. It'll be 1 year, 13 days from now. And his young son, who is 38, just 38, my goodness, passed away yesterday. And so Larry and his family are obviously traumatized, absolutely traumatized by this situation. So I ask you the obvious. I ask you to pray. And ask for God's grace and comfort for the Elder family in this terrible, terrible time. I want to go back to Kent, who is in Orange County, and he was talking about how President Trump, when he spoke at the press conference after Charlottesville, we know what he said and what he didn't say. We don't listen to the liars. But, Kent, you were about to make a point. The president knows what he's doing when he's on camera, right? Because he made a career of that.
Well, without a doubt. And the thing that always amazes me is that while people are so concerned about defending or slamming Trump for what he said, the bigger issue is, do you really believe that this man is dense enough to make fun of a crippled reporter, that he's that callous to praise KKK people? I mean, just the broad brush thing makes it ridiculous on his face before you even get further into the comments. It's just absolutely
you're 1,000% right. The guy is media savvy. People forget that he had one of the top-rated game shows of all time for such a long period of time with The Apprentice. And yes, he knows how to play to a camera. Yes, he also knows how to embellish a little bit to make himself look good and powerful in the "you're fired." And that's exactly why.
No other politicians have ever done that, have they?
No, not at all, never. But that's exactly why we have to understand what you're saying is true. He wouldn't say something so extraordinarily dangerous and wrong because he's on television, and he knows that when that red light is on the camera, anything and everything you say is going to be evaluated. He's got more experience in it than virtually anybody else who's ever held the office, I believe. And so you're right. That reporter's another story. That's another one they like to tell. And Ken, thank you for the call. I got to move on. And they like to tell and say that he made fun of or he mocked a handicapped reporter when he made that strange, short arm gesticulation. And of course, the reporter had the short arm, or I don't even know what you want to call it. Don't crucify me for not knowing what it's called, but whatever his affliction was. And then, of course, we saw numerous other instances of the president making the same exact gesture to other people who are normally abled in terms of their capacity, etc. So it's just his way of kind of making a goofy gesture, and it's not specifically targeted at somebody who is handicapped or differently abled in any way. That's far too PC for me, but at any rate, you understand the point. Hour number 3 is coming up of the Larry Elder Show, and I promise you I've got time for plenty of your phone calls. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. You dial right now, and we'll get you up early in hour number 3 right here on the Larry Elder Show.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Isn't it fascinating how we're numb to huge, explosive, sort of bombshell stories because of this year? I think it's the year. Honest to goodness, there are people who have no recognition, enormity of what well, what Town Hall calls Joe Biden's racist comments about all blacks being the same. I've got people in my world who are like, well, you know, there's not enough diversity among African Americans. What? Joe Biden's, I mean, I'm reading here Bronson Stocking, and this is a takeaway from everybody from ABC News to Hot Air to Drudge, and it's coming 88 days before the election. This is huge. This is crucial. It's very important that we convince Americans why it's better to vote for Donald Trump and the Republican Party than Joe Biden and the Democrats. Very important. Last night on Sean Hannity's show, he played a montage of Joe Biden's troubling history with racial comments. It was a fascinating montage for all of the accusations that Donald Trump is a racist. And incidentally, as ABC covered the jaw-dropping comments that Biden made to two different National Association of Black Journalists and the National Association of Hispanic Journalists.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
We have to talk about the jobs figures that are out, beating all market expectations. What is your interpretation of the almost 1.8 million jobs added in just July?
That we're recovering despite lawmakers who don't want to see us succeed. And I hate to say that because to me, Seb, politics should not, economics should not be political. In other words, we should be able to all look at our economy and say we want what's best for our economy. We want jobs for American workers. We want success for American workers. And that should be divorced entirely from who's going to win in November. But unfortunately, too many people, politically motivated, look at our economy through the lens of politics. And thus, they want to make sure that their candidate is better positioned. And in their view, they would like to see, I hate to say it, again, America's economy really struggle, because then that makes all those socialist policies that they put forward suddenly more attractive. I mean, not to me, but they think that to more Americans it will be attractive. But here's the reality. 1.8 million jobs being added to the economy, far more than people thought, and that's despite this on-again, off-again shutdown thing, right? That's a total schizophrenia type of move from local lawmakers who can't figure out whether they should open or close. And we still succeeded in adding nearly 2 million jobs. So that tells you that if government would just get out of the way, people could do what they know how to do, and that's run a business and participate in a market economy.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Here was civil rights lawyer Leo Terrell last night on Fox News.
Joe Biden is unfit to be president, and Joe Biden is a racist. Joe Biden has the mindset of a plantation owner. He thinks he knows how every black person thinks, how we walk, what we should eat. Joe Biden doesn't understand that black people are individuals. Condoleezza Rice and Al Sharpton are different individuals. We have a different mindset. And what the Democrats will do is they'll roll out Jim Kleinberg, and he say it's okay. Jim Kleinberg doesn't speak for me or Larry or black America. No one black person speaks for black America. And CNN and MSNBC, they wouldn't cover this today. Donald Trump is absolutely right. Joe Biden insulted every black American today, and he should not be president. He is the racist. What is so amazing to me is that they're going to put this guy out in front and say he's not. The only reason why he is getting a pass because he has a D in front of his name, not an R. Republicans are the people who believe in the colorblind society. Democrats are the ones who believe in identity and race politics.
It is very important that you seize this moment and recognize the political bombshell that this has been at a time when Biden's lead is dropping. His lead over Trump is dropping at a time when God willing, coronavirus will start to dissipate, go down. The numbers will go down at a time when Black Americans have to make a big decision. A lot of analysis involves believing that the key to the November 3rd election is the black vote.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
Well, Chinese authorities claimed the first explosion had been triggered when the summer heat caused a highly flammable compound called nitrocellulose to spontaneously ignite. Nearby stores of ammonium nitrate then caught fire and exploded in the major port city. It's hard to believe, that just the heat of Beirut caused this. Oh my God. So it's a horrible thing. Then as now witnesses filmed apocalyptic, almost surreal footage showing the scale of the inferno. 150 people, at least, are dead. Thousands have been injured. Massive damage. And Lebanon was already in a terrible state. It's sort of like in a failed state. I was mentioning to the Living Martyr earlier during a break, Hezbollah has ruined Lebanon. Lebanon was the garden of the Middle East, of the Arab Middle East. It's where the rich went to enjoy themselves. I was in Beirut a long time ago, and it was a thriving city. And then the Civil War was the beginning of the end. The radical Muslims against the rest of society.
Keep up with what's trending.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to apologize for the sounds that are emanating from your radio right now. My own voice notwithstanding, one of the worst songs ever recorded in recorded music history is playing. Somebody thought this would be cute and funny, I guess, because of Ohio, or something. I don't know. No, do not do this. I normally get my groove on when I host the Larry Elder Show. I get my vibe going. I cannot get it to that. Welcome to hour number 3 of the broadcast. Bob France sitting in case you didn't figure that part out, here in Ohio, the ReliefFactor.com studios of AM 1420, The Answer. We like to have a good time whenever I am in, and I'm normally very, very delighted to be here. And I am again tonight, but I just wish it were under better circumstances. If you're just tuning in, Larry is not in tonight because of a family emergency, family tragedy, really. His nephew, Eric, 38 years of age, son of his brother Kirk, who passed away. In 13 days from now, it will be 1 year ago that Larry lost his beloved brother Kirk. And now, just a cruel twist of fate, his son, Eric, Kirk's son, Eric, has passed away as well. So Larry is, of course, spending time with his family, and with Eric's mother, of course, and with the entire Elder family and clan. And obviously, we want to wish them the most sincere blessings and prayers. I hope you will join me in a prayer, privately, of course, for the Elder family, for God's grace and comfort at that very, very terrible time that they are dealing with right now. Larry may be back in the big chair tomorrow. He really didn't want to miss tonight. You know how that is sometimes, I suppose, when you're in a grieving process. Sometimes the best thing to do is to just kind of drown yourself in your work, take yourself away from the sadness for a little while, and just do what you do. And Larry wanted to come in and do the program tonight, but he decided better of it. So we'll see what he feels like tomorrow. But I do appreciate you being with us in his stead, and I knew you do join me in condolences. By the way, if you're listening to me and not watching the NBA tonight, you are like most Americans. Nobody is watching the NBA playoffs. Isn't this a glorious thing? Headline: NBA playoff ratings sink to stone sink like stone. Boy, I can read. Sink like stone, down 23% compared to last year, even with millions of people working from home. I think this is a spectacular story because of its nature as a spectacular failure. I mean, think about this. We went through from March until around early July, I think it was, maybe mid-July. I'm trying to figure out exactly when they started coming back. But we had no sports of any kind starting in March. We didn't see the end of the winter sports season for a lot of states and a lot of places in terms of high school. You know, the state championships for basketball and for hockey and things and wrestling were canceled. They didn't even get to have those at the end of the winter sports, let alone the spring sports, which were all wiped out, baseball and softball and track and field and so forth. Then the professional and college games. So we didn't even have March Madness. We didn't get to watch the NCAA tournament. The baseball season didn't start at all. Basketball was suspended in the middle. We had nothing. We're a sports crazy nation. And from March until around July, we had nothing. Which means what? One would think we would be licking our collective chops. We watch the games. Oh, I can't believe there's no games. I want to watch the games. And finally, when we're told the games are back, the NBA's playing, baseball is playing, the NFL is getting ready to go to practice. Yay! With all of that pent-up desire to watch the games, the people stopped watching the games. Despite their desire, despite their hunger for the sports that they love, that we all love, people aren't watching. Why? Why do you suppose that is? Could part of it be the fact that they're in a strange environment in the NBA playoffs, playing inside that strange little bubble, as they call it, down in Orlando without fans? I suppose maybe that might affect. I don't know. Have you ever watched a game in the NBA, particularly in the playoffs, to see what the stands looked like? Or do you watch the action on the court? I've always watched action on the court, I suppose. Maybe I'm crazy. This is me. I don't watch the game. But if you want to say, well, maybe it's because of the weird environment, okay. But I believe that it might be a little bit more than that. I believe that there are millions of Americans who are either considering taking the pledge or have already taken the pledge. What pledge, you ask, Bob France? The walk-away pledge. You know what the walk-away campaign is, right? It's the campaign advanced by some of Larry's featured players in the movie Uncle Tom, people like Candace Owens. Hashtag walk away. Walk away was a hashtag campaign for black Americans to walk away from the Democrat Party. Get off of the Democrat plantation to which you have been mentally and virtually and spiritually chained for far too long. Start thinking and acting independently of what Democrats tell you to think. Walk away. And it's a huge movement. Well, I have begun the walk away campaign. I might not have Candace's platform, but from professional sports. The moment I saw them paint Black Lives Matter on the court down there in the bubble in Orlando, I was done. I have not watched a single dribble since their return. The moment that they were putting BLM on the MLB pitching mound when baseball returned, I was done. I have not watched a single at bat. And now that I know that the National Football League is going to allow the players to put the names of victims as they see it of police brutality on the backs of their helmets, like Jacob Blake, the same NFL that a few short years ago refused to allow the Dallas Cowboys to wear a little logo, a little shield on the back of their helmets to commemorate the death of 5 dead cops ambushed by Black Lives Matter. I was done. I have walked away from professional sports, and I do believe that I am not the only one. And I do believe I will not be the only one. And I'm glad to have this national platform and this mammoth audience to share this with, because I want you to join me. I will not support leagues that promote Marxism. I will not support players that promote the destruction of the American nuclear family. I will not support players and broadcasters and coaches and league owners or team owners and league commissioners that literally promote the death of cops. And you say, what are you talking about? None of them have ever said they promote the death of cops. They are putting BLM all over their gear and their fields and their courts and their helmets. And BLM stands for Black Lives Matter, Inc. And Black Lives Matter, Inc., the organization, absolutely believes in dead cops. They chant it on the streets. Pigs in a blanket. Fry them like bacon. Death to cops, death to cop supporters, death to conservatives. Look in Portland, Oregon. Deaths to Trump supporters. Death to all that they don't like. Hell, let's be real here. Let's just be honest. We have heard it. They are marching through the streets of Oakland, California, among other places, literally calling death to America. Black Lives Matter and their acolytes in Antifa garb and their acolytes and associates and friends with RevCom USA, that's the Revolutionary Communist Party USA that you always see marching and carrying banners with these mobs, they are all chanting for the death of America, for the death of our nation, from the death of our republic, for the death of our Constitution, the death of our rights, the death of capitalism. They're chanting death to America. I will be damned if I give them a nickel of my time or 1 point in their ratings. I will not give them anything. I will not buy gear. I will not buy hats. I will not buy tickets. And I will not turn on the channel. And seeing the ratings for the NBA, it looks like I'm not the only one. Walk away. Join the Walk Away from Pro Sports campaign, friends. You'll feel better for it, and you'll be helping our country. My name is Bob France. I'm sitting in for the Sage of South Central, Larry Elder, and we'll be right back.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Yeah, before we get off, because you and I love to talk, you have a new book out. The book is titled what?
Jesus Politics, because it occurred to me, you and I are inside a democratic republic, a constitutional republic. However, its foundation is in fact, like John Adams said, the Constitution that James Madison has hammered out for us, it's written for a religious and moral people, and it is wholly inadequate for any other. So the book is about how the kingdom of God, Jesus being the king, it was set up in the Roman Empire 2,000 years ago, 2,020 years ago, roughly. So you say, when Jesus came down and set that kingdom up, the kingdom, the manifesto is love God, love your neighbor, make sure you implement that, be kind, joyful, the fruit of the Spirit, all coming up together, rises. Watch this. As you come to him, the living stone, rejected by men, but chosen by God and precious to him. You also, like living stones. I know Pink Floyd was not aware of this when they wrote Another Brick in the Wall, but that's exactly, and they might have got that wordage from here.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Of young people who are on the brink of learning to read, and that typically occurs in first grade to second grade. if you take them out of that cohort where they learn to read in order to be able to read to learn, I don't know that they ever catch back up in any serious way. I think a year and a half away from primary education at the early age is something we actually haven't seen in centuries. What do you think the effects of that will be?
It will be crippling to opportunity. The achievement gap is going to grow further, which means that racial tensions will grow. We are going to have a generation that is incapable of participating in the economy. It is absolutely horrifying that the key is being able to read. The key is not going to college. The key is, as you say, Hugh, those early years. And it's both the question of learning to read. It's also socialization. Who knows what attitudes towards human contact are being formed now in children. But without those basic skills, people are going to be handicapped for life. It's going to hurt them, and it's going to hurt everybody around them.
And this is in the face of overwhelming evidence that children in that age demographic are at almost no risk. And you said earlier, our inability to appreciate risk is what is driving this crisis. Can you
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Do you know what this will do to Second Amendment proponents all over the country? Here was her announcement. This is the New York Attorney General yesterday.
Altogether, there are 18 causes of action. And these actions violated multiple laws, including the laws governing the NRA's charitable status, false reporting on annual filings with my office and the IRS, improper expense documentation.
20 minutes past the hour. Bob France sitting in for the Sage. Larry Elder, good to have you aboard. Hey, reminder, I love to talk about this. I know Larry tells you all the time, too, about Home Advisor. I've used Home Advisor around my house projects for a long time. Hiring a painter, I've done that for my bedrooms, actually for the great big hallway over the stairway. I can't paint ceilings with a big long stick the way they can. I was no good at it. Anyway, hiring a painter, hiring pros for your yard work, I do that too. A few other repairs in between. I always rely on Home Advisor. It's a modern solution to all of your everyday home projects. With Home Advisor, homeowners can get connected with top local service pros for any type of home project, from repairs to major remodels. Download the Home Advisor app today and check the pros' ratings, read some reviews. It's so simple. You'll see Home Advisor has pros for every project. You can book and pay for more than 100 projects with just a few taps of your phone. Please see the tasks trending in your neighborhood. It's a fantastic way to find the right pros for you. Home Advisor, pros for every project. You name it, they'll have it for you. Home Advisor standing by, ready to go to get your fix for all of your needs. Whether you need a last-minute fix, routine home maintenance, or a major upgrade, visit HomeAdvisor.com today or download the free Home Advisor app to get started. All right, I want to go to the phones to get started right now, and we're going to go to New York, New York. And this is where Joe has been waiting ever so patiently on the Larry Elder Show. Hello, Joe. It's Bob France sitting in for Larry. Thanks for your patience. Go ahead.
Hey, good evening. I'd like to point your attention to a great article by Dr. Paul Craig Roberts at UNZ, that's UNZ.com. And it points out the fact that while hydroxychloroquine in combination with zinc has proven to be very effective in combating the COVID-19 virus, Big Pharma, even the established media, as well as the public health establishment, has been relentlessly endorsing remdesivir and other treatments that are grossly more expensive and, quite frankly, out of the reach of many people who are uninsured. So basically, you know, it's a combination, it's a confluence of factors that are leading the public to believe that hydroxychloroquine is not an effective drug. It's because these vested interests stand to lose literally billions of dollars on a potential vaccine as well as drugs.
Yeah, I have long been in the same camp you are with hydroxychloroquine. I have opposed, and I've seen many doctors reporting on the effectiveness of the drug. Obviously, they're saying, you know, those who who deny it say there have not been large, massive sampled randomized studies, blah, 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 with control groups, et cetera. And until you do that, you cannot prove this, even though you have so many doctors who are saying, look, I'm giving it to my patients and it is working, and other countries as well. Your point about the cost is right. Hydroxychloroquine costs like $10 a dose. Remdesivir costs $3,120 for a typical COVID-19 treatment, according to one report, and according to another, it will cost $520 per dose when paid for by private insurers. So why on earth would they be pushing one over the other unless they are in Big Pharma's pockets, unless some people and some of these doctors are getting paid big, big dollars by those who make remdesivir? Now, I'm not accusing because I have no facts on this, but I'm asking the question. Why would they be pushing in and supporting a $3,000 per treatment dose of remdesivir when hydroxychloroquine? And again, let's have these big randomized studies. But in the meantime, every doctor should be free to take a drug that's been on the market for 30, 40 years for a variety of other ailments. And we know what those are. We hear people talking about all the time. But this drug has not been proven to be any kind of a threat to heart conditions, et cetera, and any of these other ailments. And now they're saying, oh, you can't use hydroxychloroquine because it could kill you. No, let's have the studies and let's let doctors decide what's best to prescribe, not Big Pharma. Thank you for the call. We'll go next to Evansville, Indiana. And that's where we find Chuck, right here on the Larry Elder Show. Hi, Chuck. It's Bob sitting in. Go ahead.
Hey, well, let me very quickly springboard. I don't want to be deceptive to your call, Sprinter, but you hit on something.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not watching sports. Period.
Good for you. Good for you.
They're going to use it like they do the classrooms. They're going to make it a pulpit where they can spew their venom, and I'm sick of it.
Totally agree, and I'm glad to hear you say that. Thank you.
Well, when I get off work and use my weekends, I want a glass of tea and a football game. I don't want to hear all the other stuff.
That's right. That's why we always have talked about sports as being the great diversion. If we want to hear about murders, wars, and rapes and this and that and the other, we'll watch the news channels. If we want to get away from murders, wars, and rapes, we'll watch the game. That's what we want. Yeah, I'm with you. What else did you have?
Anyway, here's my comment. I'm kind of saddened by all the talk show hosts, and that's all of you. I'm a little bit saddened and grieved because, sir, 3 days ago, does the country realize that 39 children have been rescued? Missing children were rescued. Many of them were being used in sex trafficking, and no one is giving a hands up or applauding our police and our FBI and the people that saved these children down in Georgia 3 days ago. It hit on the news for 15 minutes. You ain't heard from it since.
That's a very good point.
Innocent children.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Why do you think this is not being covered anywhere?
Because we are paralyzed by Trump and Biden, and I'm sick of it.
Yeah, I think there's. You're right. You're right to be sick of it. I will take the admonishment as a talk show host. I have not been paying a lot of attention to this story. You're right, because we're all focused on what happens in.
Think about this. What if you were sitting at home and you got the phone call? We found your daughter.
Right. No, believe me, I'm with you. I totally agree with you. It is we are derelict in our duties by not talking about this. But you're right. We're paralyzed to an extent, Chuck, by what's coming up on November 3rd, because the future of our country is at stake, and that is not to diminish the seriousness of obviously stories like this. But here's the thing: as a talk show host, I can always segue. And my response to you will be, yes, I agree with you, and I apologize on behalf of talk show hosts everywhere for not paying enough attention to the story, but I can then segue it to, if you really want to talk about sex trafficking and victims of sex trafficking, if you really want to stop that or minimize it, you better have somebody who's going to be strong on the border, because that's what they're doing. They're taking these kids across the border, and their human trafficking is a huge issue. And Joe Biden, you see how we do that? And we do. And Joe Biden is going to be terrible when it comes to our sovereignty and our security. More drugs are going to flow across that southern border because Joe Biden says so. More human trafficking is going to be done. More gang members are going to be done. More. All of these things are going to happen more if we're not careful. So it always does come back to this. And you're right. But let me say this to you. In addition to the 39 that they found in Georgia, how many people realize that days later, 25 more were found right here in the state in which I reside, right now in the state of Ohio. The U.S. Marshal Service located 25 more missing children in Ohio last month as part of Operation Safety Net, which is what was used to find those 39 children in Georgia. So the U.S. Marshal's Northern District of Ohio said that all 25 children they have found thus far were between the ages of 13 and 18 and had been trafficked in the same exact way. Yes, it is happening, and yes, we should be paying more attention to it, but I do know why people are not, and I thank you so much for calling it to our attention. 29 minutes after the hour, we'll take a short time out and come right back with more calls on The Larry Elder Show.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Now let me get to the bad news. Politico. COVID talks going nowhere as deadline nears. New York Times. Amid dire jobless numbers, small business relief program nears end. Washington Post. White House Democrats fail to reach agreement on virus relief bill. Next steps are uncertain. Financial Times. Donald Trump threatens executive action to break stimulus impact. You see what's going on? Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are demanding $3.5 trillion. The Republicans want to extend unemployment insurance, and they want to give small businesses money. It's about $1 trillion package. They're $2.5 trillion apart. Democrats are holding the unemployed hostage to the Green New Deal. It's that simple. They are holding the unemployed and small businesses hostages to broke states with massive deficits and unsustainable public employee pension program. And Mark Meadows and Steve Mnuchin don't give in. The president can use executive action, and he should. The great one Mark Levin tweeted out last night, and on this I believe Republicans are united. $1 trillion for relief of people who still can't find a job. The unemployment numbers are coming down. We'll get a number at 8:30 today, which I hope will continue to get us closer to 10% unemployment. And the third quarter is going to be magnificent as America reopens. But you can't be held up this way. And I cannot believe Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are doing it, but they are doing it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
The biggest story of the week in terms of national security. It looked like a nuclear detonation in Beirut, in the port, in the docks there. I always say, first things first, with anything coming out of that region, especially the benighted region of Lebanon, most initial reports are fallacious. You got to wait and see. Fireworks this, fireworks that. How do you deal with breaking massive stories like that, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, exactly the way a professional analyst does with that is you take the facts when you have, as you get them in, and you try to put context around them and say, does this kind of pass the common sense test? So hundreds of deaths, thousands and thousands of casualties, about $15 billion in damage. If you think of
and tens of thousands homeless.
That's right. If you think of the Murrah office building
in Oklahoma, which
was actually a bomb made out of ammonium nitrate, which is fertilizer, right?
Yeah.
But it's highly combustible. So if you put it, you can make a bomb out of it. 1,000 times more powerful than that. So, so totally consistent with that kind of explosion. And apparently, so this was a shipload of ammonium nitrate,
an old shipment.
The ship had broken down. It was owned by a Russian company. Refused to fix the ship. The port seized it. They stuck it in a warehouse
for years.
Yeah, went back and forth with the government and the courts. Nothing ever happened to it. So there were reports that fireworks were stored in the same warehouse. This is an incredibly unsafe, combustible conditions. If you actually watch the explosion, it's completely consistent like that because you see some secondary explosions and then you see the big, balloon thing.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Dennis Prager Show.
where the doctors said wearing a mask outside healthcare facilities offers little, if any, protection from infection. New England Journal of Medicine. So there are people say, you're not telling the truth, the whole truth, because they wrote a letter.
Yes, indeed. 27 minutes before the top of the hour here on the Larry Elder Show. Bob France sitting in for the stage tonight for all the wrong reasons. I really enjoy my time talking to you, but I remind you once again, or inform you if you have not yet heard, Larry made the announcement on his Twitter page, so this is not a secret he is trying to keep. He's off tonight because he's with his family in a time of great sadness. His nephew Eric, son of his late brother Kurt, was found deceased yesterday, just 38 years of age. So this is obviously a very, very difficult time for Larry, and we wish him and his family all of God's blessings. Back to the phones we go, and try to get some blessings for this country of ours as well. We are in dire need of them. We're going to go to Kentucky next, and that's where Debbie resides, and she joins us now on the Larry Elder Show. Hi, Debbie. It's Bob sitting in. Go right ahead.
Hi, Bob. You're doing Larry proud tonight, and I want to say Psalm 34:18, Larry, it says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and he saves those who are crushed in spirit." So that's my prayer for him tonight. And your show's been so great. I had so many things I could say. I want to challenge every single American that hears my voice and your voice tonight to become very, very involved in the political process, i.e., call your local and state representatives. You've got to tell them how you feel. I know that one phone call exponentially represents hundreds, possibly thousands of people of a like mind. Please, please do that. And secondly, the thing that has me sickened the most is the one vote, one person, one vote. And this entire coronavirus ploy has been trying to destroy our voting system. And I think that probably upsets me more than anything, because if we give up that fundamental right of voting in person and demanding absolute integrity, we're done. We're done. So I will listen to you and what you have to say. And again, you're doing a great job, and thank you.
Well, I thank you so much for the kind words. Here's what I will say about what you had to say. Say it again, sister. It is that important. It is that extraordinarily important that our vote it has integrity. Our vote in an individual sense, each of our votes, and the vote, meaning collectively, that it is indeed, that its integrity is maintained. We need to vote in person. Vote by mail should be absolutely eliminated and illegal. Vote by absentee ballot, which is very, very different, is another story. If you wish to avail yourself of that process, where you reach out to your board and you ask for a ballot to be sent to you that is verified, marked with your name and number and address, and you fill it out and send it back in, and they check the signatures, et cetera, that's a different story than mail-in balloting. I completely concur with you, and here is my prediction. My prediction is that if the vote is true and fair and integrity is maintained from a big and small picture standpoint, macro and micro level, Donald Trump will be reelected president of the United States. If mail-in voting is allowed and or encouraged in the vast majority of the states, if they use the phony, well, I got to be careful. It's not a phony pandemic. People have died. What's phony is the extraordinary overreaction to the pandemic, which is nowhere near as deadly as we were told it would be. Remember, it was going to be 2.2 million dead Americans by the time this thing was done. So if they use the pandemic and the overreaction of it between now and November 3rd to make voting at the polls in person next to impossible, and they have to use mail-in balloting, Joe Biden will win going away. And not because he will win, but because the election will indeed be stolen. We had a caller previously talk about it. She has heard postal workers. We have seen videos of postal workers taking mailers for Republican candidates by the bundle and throwing them into dumpsters. I'm not delivering that Republican stuff. I'm not going to help support the Republicans. Now, I'm not saying every postal worker is a Democrat at all. My point is we have seen videos like that prove that the election cannot be, the election integrity cannot be maintained. We're relying on human beings who are flawed and failing, which we all are, to take something as extraordinarily important as this and to just, hope. And here's the best example that I've heard thus far. Somebody brought this up to me the other day, and I used it on my local show in Cleveland, Ohio, and I'll say it to you. If you have $5,000 in cash, and I'm going to assume that's a significant amount of money for almost all of us, would you take $5,000 in cash, stuff it in an envelope, address it to yourself, and then take it to the post office and drop it in the box and have confidence that money's coming back to you? Because if you hesitate for a second to drop that money into that mailbox, then you better not even think about dropping your vote there. Your vote is worth even more, and you don't trust it to get where it's going. We'll be right back.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
These Twitter accounts have lost thousands of followers. Brandon Stracker, the man who founded Walkaway, 3,000 Twitter followers gone. Deanna Lorraine, who ran against Nancy Pelosi, 8,000 followers disappeared. Parody account, Stonewall Jackson, 1776 Stonewall, 4,000 followers lost. Omar Navarro, 5,000 followers just vanished. And then congressional candidate Lauren Boebert, 1,500. Now, what's the linking aspect? Have a wild guess. What links all of these people? Not one of them is a Democrat. Not one of them is a leftist liberal. Glitches, algorithms, or election meddling? You know the answer. It's time to fight back. 87 days to go. And Twitter is in the warpath. Jack Dorsey, what is your excuse this time? You don't have one. I think it might be time for a class action suit. Discrimination along political lines on a platform that has been immunized in 1996 in legislation that said, oh, we're not publishers, we're just information platforms for social media. Yeah, right, Jack.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
How much time do you spend thinking about root causes of the public policy choices that are made here, Heather?
I think the root causes come out of the university, the safetyism ethic, the feminization of university culture is now translated itself into this civilization destroying mantra of stay safe. I cringe every time I hear that. That is not how a vital culture thinks about things. At some point, we need a politician to stand up and say, there is death. Death is a fact of life. There are going to be some deaths from coronavirus as there are from other things, but there is much more death and destruction being wrought right now by this heartbreaking crushing of private enterprise.
This is classic. That's epic. That is epic. 43 minutes past the hour, 17 minutes before the hour. We do continue Bob France Live here in the great, formerly great city of Cleveland, Ohio. Sorry, it's Democrat run. It may not be as bad as Portland or as Seattle at the moment, but it is in very, very, very bad shape. But nonetheless, it's what I call home, live from the ReliefFactor.com studios of AM 1420, The Answer here in Cleveland. Want to finish out strong with some more good phone calls. Still have time for you, 888-971-SAGE. If you want to get in, 888-971-7243. Let's go to Riverside, California, and this is going to be Pete. You are on the Larry Elder Show. Bob France sitting in for Larry. Pete, go right ahead, sir.
Hey, Bob. My heart goes out to Larry's family. That's just incredible, bad luck. Hey, I got about 4 different things, but let's go back to the guy who blamed talk. I've been listening to talk radio since 1988. I'm 70 years old, okay? This is California, okay? We tried. The people who are not here anymore, the conservatives, they tried. Okay, now the state is a one-party state. All the whole crap about the border. This guy who called and is blaming talk radio hosts, no. The only thing you can put at the concept of talk radio is that it doesn't get out into the streets. You're preaching to the choir. But you guys have done a hell of a job. All of the stuff was discussed. These disgusting murders, okay, by illegal immigrants. I got no gripe against them, okay, but it dovetails into Kamala Harris. One little quick and I want to get to Harris, but the woman who just called about, look into your local, politicians, you have to take it one step further than that. Look at Oregon, okay? The governor, that fanatic, okay, he's not only, the mayor of Oregon. He's not only the mayor, but he's the police commissioner. In Riverside, California, you don't have that. Okay, so look into the type of government that you have and who is in charge. And when a city council seat becomes open, get your butt in there, and vote. And don't leave it, don't have it where 80% of the people don't show up. This is why we're in the trouble that we're in. But let's go to Kamala Harris.
Please do.
I've been calling talk radio for a year and a half since I first found out about her, her record. People, please get on your phones and look up articles about Kamala Harris. Look at the people that she put in prison. Read the articles. One of the guys' name was True Love, a father of 4. He was in his mid-20s, I believe. She puts him in jail on some phony evidence. She is corrupt. She should have been disbarred. She should be in jail. Joe Biden, I doubt, will fill out maybe even the first year. They've already got him used to taking medicine, probably because he had the stroke. He's not going to be a factor, I don't believe. I think that Harris is going to be in charge of our country. So why don't we all look at Harris, okay? Read the articles about Harris, how the judges had to tell her, you must give up the exculpatory evidence. You must. You are holding it back, you and your prosecutor team, time and time and time again. She is a danger to every man, woman, and child in this country.
You speak with great passion and great common sense and great reality. I completely concur, and I thank you so much for that phone call, Pete. She is a very big danger, and I know Larry has talked about this. I'm not plowing new ground here. In fact, I'm kind of going over old ground, but Kamala Harris needs to be vetted as president of the United States, not vice president. Generally speaking, vice presidential nominees don't move the needle. Nobody voted for or against Bill Clinton because of Al Gore's presence. Nobody voted for or against Mitt Romney because of Paul Ryan's presence. It's just not that big of a deal most of the time. Same thing with Donald Trump. Nobody voted Trump because Pence is there, steady Mike at his side. But this time, you have to look at Kamala Harris as what she is. And by the way, I should make sure to say her name properly. I said Kamala. It's not. It's Kamala. Remember we heard this whole big rift because of what Tucker Carlson said, called her Kamala? And one of my friends, and I want to share this on national radio because I shared it on my local radio. One of my friends said, here's the best way to remember how to pronounce the name of Kamala Harris. It's Kamala, like communist, not Kamala, like capitalist. See the difference? Kamala, communist. Kamala, capitalist. So it's not Kamala. Just remember, she's a communist. She's Kamala. At any rate, Kamala Harris needs to be treated like a president because we all know that the extraordinary decline of Joe Biden's mental faculties, it cannot be denied. Even Democrats don't deny it really most of the time. They know what's coming here. He's not going to be able to finish out a term. So if you are vetting the two candidates for president, stop vetting Trump versus Biden. Start vetting Trump versus Kamala, the communist Harris, because she is a real, clear, and present danger to the United States of America if she is elected vice president and is just one, I won't say heartbeat, one rambling, incoherent mental collapse away from the presidency. Let's go to Dallas, Texas. Gloria, you're on the Larry Elder Show. It's Bob sitting in. Gloria, go right ahead.
Well, Trump, I saw eye to eye with Trump when he was talking about making Americans come first, and he was saying a lot of things that I liked and everything, and I was planning on voting for him. But he jumped up and called the National Guard out on people. They socked people eyes out with different bullets and everything and put holes in their legs because they was protesting. And he seemed like he wants the police to murder black folks. And then
Whoa, Gloria. Back up 1 second.
What?
First, I was going to let you just kind of go on with the stuff about he called the National Guard in. I was going to explain to you why that was important and why he needed to do that. And he needs, plural, or current rather, to do that right now in a whole lot of cities. But then when you just said that, I have to stop you. At what point did you hear the President of the United States call for the shooting of black people?
Well,
is that what you just said? Did I hear you right?
I saw it on the news. Where this guy shot two protesters and walked right by the police, and the police didn't do a thing about it. And shooting every bigot coming off from up under the rock is shooting down.
Okay, let me tell you two things here. Let me ask you two things here real quick, Gloria. Number one, did you hear the president say that people should come and shoot other people?
No, I didn't hear it, but I heard it on the
Number
news.
two, hold on. Number two. Yeah, I've got to get to my break here, but number two, Gloria, you should know this. The three people that he shot were all white. Kyle Rittenhouse shot 3 white people. I'll be right back.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Now let me get to the bad news. Politico. COVID talks going nowhere as deadline nears. New York Times. Amid dire jobless numbers, small business relief program nears end. Washington Post. White House Democrats fail to reach agreement on virus relief bill. Next steps are uncertain. Financial Times. Donald Trump threatens executive action to break stimulus impact. You see what's going on? Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are demanding $3.5 trillion. The Republicans want to extend unemployment insurance, and they want to give small businesses money. It's about $1 trillion package. They're $2.5 trillion apart. Democrats are holding the unemployed hostage to the Green New Deal. It's that simple. They are holding the unemployed and small businesses hostages to broke states with massive deficits and unsustainable public employee pension program. And Mark Meadows and Steve Mnuchin don't give in. The president can use executive action, and he should. The great one, Mark Levin, tweeted out last night, and on this I believe Republicans are united. $1 trillion for relief of people who still can't find a job. The unemployment numbers are coming down. We'll get a number at 8:30 today, which I hope will continue to get us closer to 10% unemployment. And the third quarter is going to be magnificent as America reopens. But you can't be held up this way. And I cannot believe Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are doing it, but they are doing it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
The biggest story of the week in terms of national security. It looked like a nuclear detonation in Beirut, in the port, in the docks there. I always say, first things first, with anything coming out of that region, especially the benighted region of Lebanon, most initial reports are fallacious. You got to wait and see. Fireworks this, fireworks that. How do you deal with breaking massive stories like that, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, exactly the way a professional analyst does with that is you take the facts when you have, as you get them in, and you try to put context around them and say, does this kind of pass the common sense test? So hundreds of deaths, thousands and thousands of casualties, about $15 billion in damage. If you think of
and tens of thousands homeless.
That's right. If you think of the Murrah office building
in Oklahoma, which
was actually a bomb made out of ammonium nitrate, which is fertilizer, right?
Yeah.
But it's highly combustible. So if you put it, you can make a bomb out of it. 1,000.
Back, we were having such fun off the air talking about old school rap. But yes, you are listening to the lyrical gangsta of talk radio. Bob France sitting in for Larry Elder. Hey, listen, in all seriousness, as we wrap this up, and thank you so much for being with us. And again, please join. I am assuming Larry is coming back tomorrow. It's very hard to wallow in the sadness of a tragic event. As you know, sometimes the best thing to do is to go to work, take your mind off it, do what you do, just to kind of, recharge yourself, because Larry's in a very bad spot right now, obviously, with his family. So I'm not sure if he'll be back tomorrow. I would expect he will be, but if he's not, I may speak with you again tomorrow night. In between now and then, please say a prayer for Larry and his entire family as they deal with the death of Larry's nephew, 38-year-old Eric. It's just a very sad affair, obviously. I wanted to kind of wrap with this. The last caller, she seemed like a nice enough lady, is a prime example of why Donald Trump calls the mainstream media what? The enemy of the people. This poor lady sat here and said, I said, did you hear the president say that his supporters should go out and shoot people, particularly shoot black people? Because that was the original premise of her call. That I was with Trump, she said, until I heard him say to go out and shoot black people. I said, did you hear Donald Trump say to go out and shoot black people? And she said, no. What did she say? She said, no, but I heard on the news, blank, stop. That's it. That's all you needed to hear. Because if you listen to the mainstream news, which is a hard and true enemy of Donald Trump and an enemy of the truth, because they are an enemy of true journalism, then you're liable to hear anything. If you listen to the news, listen to Don Lemon or Chris Cuomo or Jake Tapper or Brian Stelter or any of the hacks on CNN, or Joy Reid, or Joe, what's his name in the morning with Mika? Joe, why am I not thinking of his name? Scarborough. Joe Scarborough, Mika Brzezinski. Listen, any of the hacks on MSNBC. Listen to Hoda or what's the Nimrod who sits next to Hoda on the Today Show on regular NBC. Listen to Stephanopoulos, Chuck Todd, and on down the line. You are going to hear those terrible lies about Donald Trump. No, Donald Trump did not say anybody should shoot anybody. In fact, he said, I do not want my supporters going out to confront anyone in any of these riot zones. To the point that the poor lady was really messed up on. She said she heard that President Trump praised this guy who shot 2 protesters and then walked right past the police. Number one, this guy, Kyle Rittenhouse, shot 3 white people. Number 2, he shot them after they attacked him. One of them punching him and trying to take his gun. The other one hitting him with a skateboard, and the other one threatening him with a handgun. And they were white. My friends, don't listen to the enemy of the people. Don't listen to the mainstream news, or else you'll be as confused as Gloria was. Thanks so much for being a part of the show tonight. God bless you. Hopefully, we'll talk to you soon. Prayers for Larry Elder. Bye-bye.